bit more predictable because by the first phase, you're only left with, none of the strongest heroes. So you're probably maybe here and there a team would let one slide through on first phase and they try to counteract it. But it would kind of lead to more bog standard drafts. Now, there is a little bit of coalescence, like all these drafts kind of go into the same direction, but there is more variety from the first phase because of this style.
It's very fair, John. I guess that is a good point, right? Like, you'd screw the pro players. We want entertaining matches. You don't get 3 bans. You get 2. You're going to like it whether you like it or not. Too bad. I like your thinking, Jonathan. I don't know where I was going with that. Well, I'm thinking of the pros all of a sudden. That's terrible. My goodness, what's wrong with me?
Yeah, I mean, I respect your opinion, right? Like, it is a headache. That first phase is much more delicate than it used to be. You have to figure out what you want to do. You tend to have to pick up a core flex now just to ensure that you can kind of adjust on the spot. I love the adjustment here from Polaris as well. Speaking about that, we see the Phoenix come out. And specifically in that Army Geniuses match up against Lilgun, we saw that Phoenix as a counteraction to the Face's Void. Like the Sunray healing is there, the attack speed slow is going to be annoying, the egg outside Chrono with a BKB piercing stun is always going to be a massive issue, and Talon doesn't have a straightforward way of clearing out that Phoenix. You see the respect bans from Polaris taking care of the Snapfire, one of the big heroes that Talon loves to run in the support, not just machine guns through that Phoenix egg. So you don't have a straightforward answer for that Supernova when it does come out.
And that's kind of crazy, right? Because, like, you'd love a Snapfire into the Undying to get rid of the Tombstone. But it seems like they're going to fight fire with fire here. It's like, okay, you've got a Tombstone? Fine. We'll pick Phoenix, we'll pop Egg, we'll see who takes out who. It's like the Snapfire is the one answer to both problems, and neither team's going to have it. And in we go, Jonathan. This is very surprising. A Nyx Assassin to pop out now. One of your personal favorites. Also the Puck mid to come out. Much more bog standard. But John, the Nyx Assassin. Why has this come out? What the hell's going on here?
It's really good against all 3 heroes. Like, it'll stop the Primal Beast from trampling over you once you pop the Spike Carapace. Really easy to cancel off Sunray and anything the Phoenix wants to do outside of Egg. Really easy to stop the Bat Rider from running off as well. So it kind of ties into that. It's really good control. It stops a lot of these channeled spells. Even the Primal Beast, like pre-BKB, he's not going to be able to pulverize that much as long as this Nyx is around with Spike Carapace. Like, you will be able to just cancel off. And I like that Talon go into the Mikado Puck because when you see Primal Beast and Phoenix, which are leaning towards the support duo right now, although there is room to still flex the Primal Beast as, say, the Nico hero here, the Force hero on the offlane, there's not much hard hold for the Puck. Like, you have Blink Lasso down the line, but Blink's not an early priority for Bat Rider. We tend to see Travel's BKB before the Blink for a lot of mid players, if that is Lelouch's hero. So there's not much to really stop Mikado from jumping in and out. And Polaris just go into the Natsumi Morphling. So, laning-wise, it shouldn't be too bad. It is a decent core-to-core matchup against the Face's Void. You can still kind of strength morph right before the Chrono flies out. There's enough time to kind of get that done. The Nyx is there to burn your mana, but it's not like you have the highest int in the world, so you're not losing as much mana as well. And this can make it tough for the side of Talon to kind of find that pause one. Like, if Natsumi's quick enough, the Chrono might not amount to much besides some smaller pickoffs here.
Yeah, absolutely not. Well, final bans to come here before we can finish off these drafts. John, I don't mean to start the drama early, right? I realize Talon has to win out this series and T1 would have to win out this series for us to get that matchup, right? The T1 versus Talon matchup in the upper bracket. But couldn't help but notice, Jonathan, Makoto had some words to say about T1 prior to the qualifiers starting that have been circulating around as of late, saying that he believes if Talon had to go up against T1, they would win outright. And that apparently Anna and Thompson would have chemistry issues with the rest of T1. So, if that matchup happens, there's going to be some very, very spicy kind of games going on, I think. I'm sure the side of T1 seen those words being said. Very strong words by Makoto. Obviously, he was just trying to answer a question, but you get my point, John. This is SEA. You can't talk without backing it up. And we might get the pleasure of seeing that matchup later on.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a possibility. And it's pretty damn exciting to see it later on. They have to beat Polaris first. And again, with Talon's performance being a little bit inconsistent, it's hard to say. Last time they met in Hatyai, that's pretty much the only win Talon found in the best of one groups up against Polaris. And that was Polaris that brought 5 games to Boom. So maybe they've got the answers here. It still feels pretty confident in this draft to go for the first phase Void and to have it go against this Morphling, which is going to be annoying. We do still have a last pick left. It does look like Polaris are just defending this Morphling pick. They're blocking off Dawnbreaker for the instant response. They're blocking off the AA to ensure the Morphling Strength Morph is still going to be effective. It does beg the question as to what they're looking for. It maybe feels like they're looking for a Q hero with Hyde taking something like the Nyx. Nyx faces Void lane isn't that good, but then again, Nyx Undying lane also isn't that good. For the Q heroes, Enchantress is left. They go with Skyrat Mage.
Woo!
So it comes out, and this is something we've seen Lilgun run up against, I believe, Talon the first day, where it didn't feel as impactful. I'm keen to see if Talon actually makes it work, because it feels like when you start falling behind in the Skyrat, the hero really just doesn't contribute, especially as the game drags on with BKBs coming out. The hero just doesn't survive unless you get the shard. Even with the shard, the added armor, it's nice. It does need a lot of spell spam for you to really hit a good amount of armor. I feel like you do have, I mean, just the threat of Morphling onto the sky. If you manage to jump him, even without a shotgun, that Skyrat is probably dead. If you do manage to catch him outside vision, pre-Manta, you do have a lot of openings there, but that's a very specific and small timing that Talon have to play with.
No, that's very fair, John. The Skyrath's definitely not going to have a very good time against this Morph, that's for sure. I suppose the Void Skyrath combo, though, like you mentioned, is probably going to be quite potent as the Tidehunter comes out. That's something a little bit new. We haven't seen so much of this during the qualifier. I can appreciate it, though. They were lacking a little bit of team fight, I would argue, on the side of Polaris Esports, so they'll go ahead and pick that one up. Force will take the offlane Tide. It looks like it's going to be the position for Primal Beast coming up for Xavius. Exciting times, John. This will be game one between Polaris Esports and, of course, Talon Esports. And I'll ask you straight off the bat, the drafts are finished. Forget the teams. Who came out with the better draft?
Better draft? I would probably lean towards Polaris. I like the aggression we're seeing coming out from them. I like the lanes coming out, like Tidehunter versus Faces Void feels really good for Force to slow down Savage's farm. Void, I mean, Savage is a great Void player, but Void does take some time to build up. We've been seeing a lot of Midas Void, Midas Maelstrom. You're not going to be doing a lot of damage in that Chrono. You're going to need a lot of space out. Polaris, you could argue the same thing goes for Natsumi, but the rest of the team, especially Xavius and this Primal Beast, it just feels like they're going to be ready to be aggressive. And that's something Talon has to kind of temper themselves around. It feels like all the pressure on Talon's end is on KP. If he has a good lane and he manages to get this early presence on the Undying, start to force some fights around himself, then that's where the space comes out for Savage. Mikado can kind of follow through with KP once he has, say, his Witchblade travels. And you can kind of get aggressive. Like, you still have this good support combination from Talon of Skyrat Mage and Nyx, but again, the window for that support is pretty short. I'd say the first 20 minutes is when that support duo feels great. Past that point, once the first few BKBs come on, it becomes a lot harder to really get value from that control and damage.
Oh, there's my favorite smile in the whole of SEA Dota. Q. Lovely, lovely smile from Q. Always a happy guy. In fact, did he just dye his hair? I can't even tell. I could have sworn his hair was brown the other day, John. Yeah. Did Q just dye his...
No.
Did he just bleach his hair?
It was that color. It was that color yesterday, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It just looks a bit brighter. Maybe the lights are a little better, you know? It did look darker, but I think the lighting was a bit worse as well.
He's a good-looking lad. And speaking of hair, I can appreciate the fact that AU's had the same hair ever since I've seen him, Jonathan. Fantastic haircut. It's a timeless haircut there from AU. You never get rid of that.
No. It's a classic cut. It's a cut that we all had back in the day as well. Of course, if you played Dota 2, you'd see that all over the net cafes.
Just a
bit of a pause. Oh, absolutely. A bit of a pause here, so we're going to be stuck staring at our lovely players first. Maybe take this time, Mikey. I want you to predict. Give us some predictions here. We've got it on hand.
Well, I don't mean to show off, but I was 3 out of 4 yesterday, so I suppose I will take a turn to predict here, Jonathan. Play with the highest net worth by 25 minutes. Ooh, I'm thinking Natsumi or Savage for sure. Oh, these guys both of them are so good. I feel like Natsumi's... Oh, I'm going to go Savage, because you're going to get Maelstrom Midas, right? So I'll go Savage. Will Itao be killed by 10 minutes? No. No, it will not. Player who
Okay.
gets the longest kill streak will be Natsumi and Savage again, John. It's hard for me to decide between these two. Because I don't know which team's going to win this. I truly don't. This will be a close one. I'm going to say Savage, only because I went with the net worth highest by 25. Will a tower be denied? No. No, it will not.
Brave. All right. There you go. We will
Do you
find
agree
out
with
soon
those,
enough.
Jonathan?
I think a tower will be denied, but otherwise, a tower will be denied, and maybe Mikado gets the longest kill streak. But beyond that, I do agree with every other point there, Mike. I'm sticking with your stuff though.
Okay.
It's your prediction. It's your time, and I will go with it as well. Did have some alt chat just in case. I don't think we caught that as again we had a little bit of a pause. Lots of alt chat coming out. Both sides again have played with each other a lot. They run into each other in pubs a lot. There's something about Natsumi asking Savage if he could fly for some reason, and Savage said yes. Go to UDV with him. I'm like, why are we dragging UDV here? Now Cirxia, or do you actually mean just going to UDV randomly in Bangkok for some reason? I mean, no problem saying hi, I'm sure, but you know, these guys are funny, especially the Polaris boys. They are very funny lads. They are very talky, funny lads. If you check their Facebook, they have some really weird posts. Boomy is just one hell of a shit poster. That's all I can
Oh,
say
yeah.
about that.
30 seconds.
Absolutely.
to
You
battle.
watch your damn language there, Jonathan. My goodness, how rude. Shout out to Polaris, by the way, John. They did send us a jersey, or at least I received mine. I haven't managed to take a photo yet, but hey, hold on. You can wait, Jonathan. They sent it to the important guy, right? The guy that matters got it. Anyway, Talon. We'll see if they fight level 1 here. Balloons have been thrown out. Force Lelouch, they're going to try and fight with Hyde on that Skywrath, and we'll be able to bully him away. Meanwhile, bottom lane, same thing happening. Topside Xavier showed up, won't be able to steal it from Savage, so it is going to be a 2-for-2 trade. Very even kind of start here between these two teams. And we will start with the mid lane once again. Of course, you're going to have Makoto on his puck against Lelouch on his signature Batrider here, John. Puck versus Batrider, who do you give the advantage over to?
I'd say it's not too bad for Puck. I mean, Batrider we tend to see has some issues just clearing out a little bit early on in the laning phase. Like, you need a couple of stacks of Napalm up. Mikado already has his magic stick, as you tend to, up against the mid Batrider. Lelouch should still be able to get some good damage in, and Mikado will have to temper himself around with the Orb and maybe the Waning Rift down the line if he wants a value point. So there is a window there for Lelouch to actually get aggressive. And in terms of trading, a lot tougher for Mikado. So as long as Lelouch kind of trades favorably and hits his level 3 mark with the level 2 sticky napalm, the lane does become a lot harder for Mikado. At least he can fill up his bottle easier. Whether or not he has room to do that with the supports on Polaris remains to be seen, because you have a Primal Beast that can run around early.
You certainly do. Speaking of bot lane, of course, KP and Q going to be against AU and Natsumi. I said speaking of, John, Primal Beast is top lane. Never mind that. Bot lane is where we're looking for now. Talon, with the Pos 3 Undying, how do you feel about that against the Morphling and AU's Phoenix? Like, do you think they can dominate this lane with this Pos 3 Undying, or should it go the other way?
I think it's all right. Every time Natsumi wants to go full agi, I think I saw it a while ago, he had 10 minus 8 strength. So he's got to keep some strength shift on hand, and that means his last hitting's not going to be as good. So you are getting presence out from KP in that sense. Once AU does have the levels, though, you could try to be aggressive as well, though with how tanky the Undying is, it does feel like you're best off with maybe a Sunray up. Q is already a good response to that, with, of course, the Spike Carapace down the line. And I think when it comes down to it, I'm not assuming he's probably not going to die, but he's also not going to see us that much because of this lane.
Of course, that final lane as well. Top lane, you're going to have Force there on that position 3 Tide. He'll be alert there with Xavius on the Primal Beast Pos 4. You'll have Savage and Hyde against the 2. This feels like one of those lanes that could go either way. Maybe a bit more of a farmy lane between these two teams. Because with the Primal Beast in your lane, it's always kind of scary, but it is a Pos 4 Beast, and with the Tide Hunter to try and play with, chances are you aren't going to have too much kill potential against the Pos 1 Void. Maybe if you catch out Hyde, I would argue it's a much easier kill, but Hyde's doing a really good job of just sitting back and not allowing himself to get out of position.
Yeah, he's just standing back, trading where he can, but not really trying to force the issue. And I think that's important because the sky just melts in this lane. And, like, if a Gush comes out, Hyde is more than likely just dead with the Onslaught follow-up. So Got to stay back a lot more. At the same time, you know, Savage is farming a lot better in comparison to Natsumi. Still not the freest lane. This is a Tidehunter lane. So Polaris has a better time, but you're not really stopping him from getting that build-up either.
No, certainly not. Bit of a fight over that bot lane. Not going to mean too much. Makoto's farming very well on this puck right now, by the way. John 19-4 on the mid puck against Lelouch, 16-3 on the Batrider. Still a very even matchup, but Makoto doesn't seem too concerned about the Batrider's presence here. And well, Puck should have a decent time getting away every single time as long as he does have the orb up. So he's not too concerned about Lelouch making a jump in with the Firefly. Maybe once you have Lasso, but before that stage, Makoto, he seems like he's going to be just fine to free farm. Top lane. Xavius. Bit of a chase going on. Savage, he doesn't actually have Bash leveled up, so he can't hold Xavius down. And now the turnaround with the onslaught onto Hyde. That is so much damage from Xavius. 2 hits is all he got, but it was too much damage. Savage gonna try and turn around on Xavius, but again, without the Bash, you haven't really got a chance of locking this man down. He's gonna be all right.
I don't mind us too much. Do manage to heal up on Savage, and there's no big threat on Hyde, mainly because Savage does have that value point from time dilation instead. So when you see the onslaught committed, you can't immediately slow, and with the additional slow from the concussive, actually chasing the sky is a tough prospect. So they are playing this lane a lot more defensively, but it's not something that the offensive players can really pierce readily just yet.
Yeah, certainly not. I mean, it's one of those things. Force might just kind of say, hey, I'd just rather secure farm right now anyway. You know, it seems like Savage is actually behind in CS as well, so Force is doing a decent job of just kind of keeping Savage a bit less farmed than he should be. And speaking of being less farmed, Natsumi's really less farmed here, 12-3 in terms of CS. The Untying Pos 3 from KP really turning out to be very potent so far during the laning stage, as you'd kind of expect. 25-11 is the scoreline of the CS for KP. Just really focusing in on the denies here on that Undying and doing a great job of it. Natsumi, he's not having a good time whatsoever.
It just goes back to that weird dynamic where if you do go Strength Morph, Agimorph here for Natsumi, I mean, he has no HP. Absolutely no HP because of all the reductions coming out. So you can't afford to really go all in to try the last hit. And that just means KP has an easier time denying and controlling up. So, gonna have to see how well Natsumi recovers down the line. They need to buy him out some space considering the slow restart, especially in comparison to Savage. Like, everyone else is tied in fairly evenly here.
Bit of a shame that that Impel ends up missing there from Q. Maybe you would have been able to set up for something onto Natsumi had you landed that, but I suppose Natsumi would have had the waveform anyway. Mid lane, a bit of a group up. Just both teams fighting over those 6-minute power rune timings. They are going to get unlucky on Talon Esports. Polaris, they will be able to get lucky with the bot rune and do pick up a haste, and immediately Lelouch is going to TP down bot to try and deal with KP here on this Undying. He has not leveled up Tombstone or Soul Rip yet. KP, he will eventually do so and try to fight back. Natsumi is doing the exact same thing, and here comes Q with the Spike Carapace and the Impel trying to put a hold to Lelouch, but he is not giving up. KP will get chased down to the ends of the earth, and they will secure the Pos 3 Undying. First blood to the Batrider.
That's a big kill. Timely rotation out to just open up Natsumi's lane. Best rune you could possibly ask for there as well for the Batrider. Just a nice haste, allows you to run over. Nothing to stop that really outside of Q, and even then just one stun isn't enough, even with the Spike Carapace follow-up. Lelouch just has his way with him. So a good start for Polaris to find that bonus. Hyde trying to play poke a bit, doesn't have the Ancient Seal. They can't really combine to really look for damage, and you did have Xavius around to protect just for a moment. And it does feel like with Talon's draft, they might be opting to play slower, which you don't necessarily want with the Undying. Again, there's this timing as well for your support, so it does feel like for Talon's end, you're going to want to have Hyde and Q soak up a bit more if you want some presence. For the side of Polaris, yes, this is a slower start for Natsumi. It's not unplayable. You can just kind of hang back, and if the game stalls out long enough, you should be able to farm the Void's farm. And again, Face's Void, not the fastest farm in the world. Orphan can kind of jump around camps as well and clear out pretty fast.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, Savage is only 7 CS ahead of Natsumi anyway. He's not having the best lane himself either against this Tide, so, you know, it's not going to be too hard for Natsumi, I'm sure. It's Talon. will move in. They will spot out AU on the Phoenix, but he will Icarus dive away. Q still going to land that Spy Carapace with the damage of that Icarus dive, and AU eventually might just drop, but Savage ends up going down to Force. Meanwhile, the Onslaught is out from Xavier's down towards that bot lane, but he's going to get called up and will drop. Hyde able to take that kill on the Primal Beast. But Savage dies top lane solo to the Tidehunter. Meanwhile, bot, they're still going. Lelouch still trying. KP, he'll drop the tombstone, but does end up going down as now a nice impale Q, landing on two of them. That'll be Lelouch to go down. Natsumi, he does at least get the tombstone. Still a great fight for Talon down a bot lane. My only problem being, John, is our Void died to the pos 3 Tide, and that's... I mean, I realize Ravage was committed, but that's not something you'd expect solo.
Yeah, it's not quite what you'd want there for Savage. I believe he was also dead under tower. So it was a really aggressive move out from Force, and there was no response out. He sees that opportunity from all the commitment Talon has down bot, and the Void just can't hold on his own all too well. I mean, you do have good levels on Time Walk, but without it maxed out, that's still 12 seconds of cooldown. That's enough of a window for you to get some good damage in on this Tidehunter. Savage already having to dip into the jungle now. Not the quickest process in the world. The Midas still being worked towards. Recipe still 1.2k gold away. And until that Midas, the Void is just not going to be a big factor at all. So you're going to have to buy that space out on Talents. And supports are at level 5. We're inching towards that point where you can play around with the threat of Vendetta into Ancient Seal, Mystic Flare with a stun. And that again, is probably Talon's best play. But for Polaris, we have yet to see just how much they can get done here. Although they're running onto Hyde.
Yeah, Hyde gets caught by the Onslaught. We'll get a D ward off. In fact, never mind. He doesn't even get it yet. Savage has to go ahead and finish it off himself. So at the least you got something for your death. Getting a ward for himself, but that's about it. Xavier's able to set up a pretty nice pick off his top lane. Q on the run. Force still chasing. Does not connect with the anchor smash. Q breaking some ankles here. It's Force, he gives up. He won't bother. Back into Makoto he goes. Force though, he's top of the net worth board right now. He's a very tanky Tide. Already with the Hood of Defiance up. They can't deal with it. He'll walk away just safe and sound, no problem.
Yep. Backs off. He has the support of Xavius now in the same lane. Onslaught at the ready. Level 3 Trample as well if they want to play aggressive. Talon for their part just back off. Polaris, they are finding that early aggression. And they find that punishment onto Savage. There is room for Natsumi to farm now. And Natsumi has actually overtaken both KP and Savage. So that early advantage we're seeing coming out from KP just nullified from all the movement around. And this is concerning for Talon. Like Polaris, Natsumi probably just wants the same timings, maybe just a Manta really to feel good here. And then you're kind of set on a Morph, perhaps a BKB down the line to protect, or just straight up Scotty. And you're kind of good to go. Whereas for the Void, you're looking for 2 farm items. Savage needs a ton of space, and if this top tier 1 falls, you're not going to have that much in the top lane.
Q, cheeky little impel there mid-onslaught, but it is going to drop anyway. Even a TP rotation cancelled off. With that, the tier 1 tower will drop. Force again, a force to be reckoned with right now. Just uncontested on the Tide, top of the net worth. There's no chance of killing this guy at the moment. You've just got to leave that Tide alone.
Yeah, it's just way too big. Maybe if you have this combination again with the Ancient Seal and Mystic Flare, you might be able to burn through the Hood of Defiance, provide an opening for Mikato to kind of try to rip apart, but always a risk going up against Tidehunter. Enough time for the rest of the team to back him up. Talon is buying some space out for Savage. They do smoke up with the 2 supports here.
Force? He's the one in the mid lane, but they don't really want to try and aim him down. Savage just trying to make sure he doesn't get a power rune for himself, and it's actually going to be Lelouch who picks one up. Another haste rune for the Batrider. As he does head up towards that top lane, Makoto needs to be very cautious. They've got Lasso up. But it looks like Lelouch, he's going to turn the other way. He won't bother. Meanwhile, bottom lane, there is a bit of a group up from Talon. Maybe trying to slowly secure that tier 1 tower down to the bot lane. And Natsumi will just TP his way out on the Morphling. He does not want anything to do with that. I suppose at the least they could send Force down to try and defend this. It doesn't seem like he wants to, though. Seems like they might just let the trade happen.
Now, it's going to be a bit of a slow push anyway coming out from Talon's end. They don't have the best push lineup at all. Damage onto objectives is slow. Fortify is there to stall out even more. They've got the top lane shoved in here on Polaris' end. They've managed to secure a really good area for Natsumi to just farm on and kind of cut off Savage and his build-up. A 2k lead already for Polaris very early on here. And they're meeting their timings. Like, they're not even the ones being aggressive. Talon has to be the ones that runs around, and they're just not able to. Good map reads out from Polaris, as they manage to just work and dictate where everything happens and avoid at the right time. For Talon, this is a bit of a risky prospect. They do want to stall the game. At the same time, that issue we talked about with the sports, they will not scale. And KP as well, your scaling on Undying is also sort of limited. Even in the game we saw previously for KP's core Undying, it can taper off. Smoke out from Polaris here.
Force trying to bait in that mid lane. Does have Ravage up as well, but nobody's going to take the bait. So Polaris, they're going to head down towards the bot side instead. Oh, Savage, he's very deep right now. Lelouch is going to show up. Lasso's immediate. Xavius, he's got the onslaught and he's got the pulverize. That was very clever from Force. He shows in the mid lane. They assume his team is behind him, smoked up. They thought it was an obvious bait, but the bait really was that Force was just making them think that the team was in the mid lane. So Savage, he thought he could get greedy, but it ends up punishing him in the end.
They get Savage. He doesn't even manage to use his Midas before dying. Just gets caught off guard. They're playing all the right ways here in Polaris, just punishing the slower lineup from Talon, ensuring that the support duo doesn't manage to get anything done early on. And just getting so much more done for Natsumi in comparison to Savage. KP, I mean, the Undying outside of laning just hasn't had anything to do. They're not clumping up, they're not taking fights. And the side of Polaris are just able to really punish this playstyle right now from Talon. And just kind of keep riding on. Like, they were going to have a really early BKB here on Xavius as well. So the counters you have with the Nyx are taken away. Spike Carapace, not going to be a concern. And nothing to really stop Xavius once he has that spell immunity up.
Absolutely not. Xavius is going to be a real issue himself with that BKB, that's for sure. Bottom lane again, Talon, they have grouped up. It seems like Polaris are more than happy to fight. They've got a 3k advantage at the moment. AU, very quick Icarus dive away. Q, he will still land an or rather impale. AU, silenced up, will be the one to drop. Talon only finding the pos 5 so far. KP trying to chase down Natsumi, but he's just fine to waveform out. They are not catching the morph, not quite yet, unless Natsumi sticks around. But he is going to back his way out just fine. So they get a pos 5 Phoenix. They'll try and maybe chip away at that mid-tier 1 tower with this 15-minute siege creep timing. But even that doesn't look too good for Talon right now. Feels like Polaris can defend this very easily if they wish. In fact, Lelouch, he's here in the Batrider. Onslaught and Lasso have been committed onto the Undying KP. He's going to try and use the pick stick, but it won't be enough. He will drop on the Undying. I'm not sure what the idea was there. Polaris, they didn't even need the Ravage from the Tide.
No. KP just a little bit too far forward. The rest of Talon did manage to back off. But this provides Polaris that same opening out onto the mid. Their push a little bit quicker with the damage Natsumi's providing. No sort of defense to come out here from Talon, so the map opens up extremely well for the side of Polaris. They're invading the top jungle fully, they've got good forward wards, they can just dictate this game, and Talon are just forced into playing this slower game. Like, now you can't really expect too much out from Q or Hyde. They are chasing Lelouch, but he is a bit too slippery right now. And all the cores of Talon just taking massive hits. Mikado the most farmed, Force just massively farmed in comparison, already has that Vlad's. Could go for the early Wraith Pact here. And once that's up, your damage issues just continue to show. I mean, this is a really tanky lineup out from Polaris with the protection of a Phoenix. I'm not sure how Talon even puts a dent in just the durability coming out here from Polaris.
I agree with you on that, John. And you look at the net worth graph now as well, like the Tide at the top, Natsumi right behind him on the Morphling, Lelouch right behind the Morphling on the net worth graph as well. Like, Natsumi, he had such a bad laning stage, but he's caught up so well thanks to the fact that his team has bought so much space. He just buys that Morbid Mask and goes to the jungle and ignores everything for the next 10-15 minutes. Gets away with it scot-free. Q has not had the chance on the Nyx Assassin to try and scout out this Morphling throughout this whole game. Just not able to find him. He's just been more focused on trying to get Lelouch with the Spike Carapace into the Impale, but that hasn't worked out either. So they might at least find Xavius here. And they will. Makoto is able to pick up one. That'll be the 4th kill of the game here for Makoto on the puck. Something they do desperately need. But it's still a 5k advantage for Polaris. And it seems like they're more than happy to just buy time for Natsumi. They don't seem rushed whatsoever.
They're confident in their late game fights. Lelouch.
Oh, Q. He tried to jump up to the high ground. Still a
Oh.
very nice impale. Tombstone to be dropped, but there's your lasso. And the BKB committed right into the egg. That'll be KP to drop, I think. So he will try to run with the soul rip. It's not going to be enough force. Takes him out on the tide. Maybe they don't get the tombstone, but who the hell cares? Q, he's going to move back in, but when you see force in that tide, you know you can't deal with him. He's got a Wraith Pack and a Hood of Defiance. Makoto, he'll pop the Dream Coil mid lane. He caught 2 and now Savage. He's caught 4 in the Chrono, but do they have the damage? Lelouch dropping low to the Mystic Flare does go down, but now the Ravage out as well. Force gonna try and turn this one around. They will pulverize Savage. Q will cop the onslaught. Oh, that is an awkward, that is a very awkward pause to come out. But to be fair, the Undying is respawning in 1 second. I suppose you have to pause in this instance, but that is very awkward.
Yeah, it still feels like at this point you can kind of say Polaris has mostly won that team fight. They find the big kill on Savage. It looked like a good chrono from Savage. They did have the damage. Very well placed. Mystic Flare out from high. That combination is still really good, but Natsumi just swoops in and finds more.
Makoto will orb towards the right side. KP does end up TPing into that mid-tier 2 tower. Makoto's still going now, back in onto Xavius, trying to find that Primal Beast, though he will go for a run and will survive for now as Makoto. He's the one dropping low. He'll get out as well with the orb. So Polaris, it was a 2 for 2 in the end, but you did find that pos 1 void like you mentioned. So Polaris does feel like they came out on top of that team fight. Still maintain that 5k net worth lead.
Yeah, and Talon does have some play, but again, it requires such a specific execution around a chrono. Like if they do manage to get that Mystic Flare combination again, catching them out while the BKBs are on cooldown or after it's expended, or before they're open, like you can still get a lot of output out from Hyde and maybe a little bit out from Mikado. But just the counter team fight from Polaris is terrifying. Like Ravage, Egg, we didn't even see that in the chrono. Savage did time himself well, but you have so many ways to dictate these fights from the side of Polaris that the angles for Talon just super awkward to find. They're starting on Roche already. Force can just simplify this process. And without the chrono out from Talon, contesting Roshan is a lot tougher. They don't have vision in the area as well, so Polaris should just be able to get away with a free one here.
They will. Force, he'll just tank the Roshan, no problem. Sure, Natsumi will be the one that wants the Aegis. Double damage as well, as is tradition. Needed a bit of damage there on Natsumi. There you go. Aegis is picked up. Very, very stylish fashion as well. He waveforms through and picks it up. It's Polaris. Again, 5k advantage. Huge lead for them. 20 minutes into this game. They're just going to maintain control of the map, keep Natsumi farming. Savage's Void is still way too far behind to contest. The very least, Savage now does have the Midas and Maelstrom up, and he will start working on towards the BKB. So once he has the BKB up, maybe he can start to get involved with his team. Again, it's not really a matter of lacking damage in the Chrono, because you do have the Mystic Flare to follow up with that. But it is more a matter of being able to survive through these engagements, and the BKB is certainly going to help that cause.
Yeah, you still have some BKB peers coming through. You could be a little bit more patient here with Lelouch to find that nice spell immune target. And that could be one way to just remove, again, Savage's presence in the middle of these fights. Lelouch has been doing a fantastic job in this game. But we'll see if he does manage to get a good timing in that. Has had pretty free time down bot. They're protecting this area really nicely on Talon's end with a couple of wards. So you do have some leeway there. A smoke out from Polaris, though, not spotted out by anything from Talon.
Force. Frontlining for his team. He does have the blink on the courier as well. He won't wait for it, though. He seems like he just wants to rush right in. Talon. But support's going to be spotted out. Force will at least land a gush onto Hyde. Q will just Vendetta and run away, so the Skywrath might just be the sacrificial lamb here. And well, Hyde is going to try for a TP up, but will not make it. Natsumi is able to secure that kill on the Morphling. Not the greatest kill in the world, though, for Polaris. I mean, they certainly wanted something a lot bigger than that for a four-man smoke-up. They'll just take what they get.
Yeah, I mean, losing height at this point, not the biggest thing in the world for Talon. Also, it doesn't give you too much on Polaris. I'm sure they would have wanted to find more, but they don't expend any big spells. They still have this Blink reveal ready for Force in the next fight. So you still have that surprise factor for the Blink Ravage here. Might be able to catch Savage off guard if you don't manage to catch that Tidehunter in the Chrono. And I think that's where more of the issues come out. Like, you have to catch a few heroes a little.
Lelouch. This is a decent kill. Savage, he's got him in the Chrono, and Lelouch, he's in no man's land. Maybe just believing he could get away on the Batrider with all his movement speed, but that's a pretty big pick-off to just give away for free.
Yeah, it's a nice kill to find on Talon. And that does signal to Polaris, though, on the respawn of Lelouch, they don't have to worry about Chrono. So they could actually just look to group up, look to go for another smoke play, use that Ravage, use that Egg, find bigger returns with the kills they might find. And Talon has to be super cautious. This is the time where Talon has to kind of split apart, prevent any big engagements from coming through.
Well, that's a fair point, John. For now, they only find Hyde. You definitely, again, want something a little bit bigger than that if the Chrono is expended. So they take the Skywrath Mage's life. Another pause to come out. Looks like they are still having some issues here on KP's end of things. So Polaris, you'd imagine now, with this blink up on the Tide, Force has Ravage, you mentioned Chrono being down. It must be time to smoke up and go. Like, surely you're not satisfied with just the Skywrath Mage kill.
No, definitely not. You are inching towards this Blink BKB timing as well for Xavius, but it doesn't feel as necessary. Just the Blink, Ravage, and Egg should be enough to take care of yourselves here on Polaris' end. And the game just gets a lot harder for Talon. Like, this Blink BKB for Xavius is massive. Just blink in, pulverize someone down. No worries about, say, the Nyx Assassin canceling you off. No worries about the Puck canceling you with the Dream Coil. You just have free reign to keep engaging here on such a short cooldown on pulverize. Like 32 seconds at level 1, 28 by the time he hits his 12. And Talon have to kind of go up against that uptime. Like, the longer piece of that toolkit is going to be the BKB cooldown, which even then might not be necessary for Xavius if he just finds that one good target to jump for anyway.
That's fair. Certainly has not been the easiest affair for Talon. 6k advantage still the way of Polaris. Oh, even Force building up an Aghanim Scepter now on that Tide, just so farmed up. The Ags are... Oh, never mind. He switches the quick buy. He'll go for the Refresher Orb Instancer. One of his teammates probably saw that and is like, hey. Oh, now a Scythe of Vice up. Make your mind up, Force. Come on. We need to know what you're building. I mean, I guess Scythe of Vice is going to be really strong against Makoto's Puck and the Void, assuming you can catch him before the BKB. There's a lot of value if he can farm it up all the way.
Yeah, I like that build-up. It allows you to just control the Puck. We talked about the one issue in this lineup for players being Makoto's Puck.
Again, Batrider, BKB, Lasso is there. He'll find Q, but Q's going to go for a run. Lelouch is not out of danger yet either. Looks like they are going to back him up, though. In comes Force on that Tide. Q will run his way out. And Talon, they'll try for a TP away. Makoto, though, might stick around for that final creep wave, but does need to be a little bit cautious with this. He'll Orb drawn back towards the south tree line. Onslaught, though, it's coming. Ooh. Makoto, oh, he got the tree line. Orb towards the left side. No, it's a juke. Makoto, very nice juke. He blinks towards the north. Tricked everyone on Polaris. Whew, that was scary stuff. He was very close with that onslaught.
Yeah, he's playing on edge, but he's buying a lot of space. Like, Polaris are grouping up 4 heroes bot. They don't find anything. You're about only 13 seconds away from Chrono being back up for Savage, so you're almost at that point where you can play again. On Talon's end, he's got the BKB up now as well in the Faceless Void, so he's much more protected from what Polaris will want to do, and they're actually going to smoke up early here on Talon's end, smoking up his tree, and they have a good combination on hand, which is Puck, Nyx, and Skywrath Mage. You just need to find a hero.
They do have Xavius. He just onslaughted right in,
Oof.
so there you go. Xavius goes down. Makoto's doing a fantastic job this game one. He is really keeping Talon in this game, number one. 6-0 and rather 5-0 and 3 now in that puck. Like you mentioned just a few minutes ago, John, making so much space for the dire side. So they do move into that tier 1 mid tower. Force is around with the Blink Ravage. Doesn't have his Primal Beast around though, so would rather just delay things if he can. And Talon, they are being very cautious as well. They're respecting that Polaris is still an extremely strong team at the moment. They will back their way out, wait for another time, because having the Primal Beast dead, that's not going to be enough to take this fight.
You still have to worry about that Ravage combination. You still have to worry about the Blink Lassos from Lelouch. They're playing tag just a bit, but not fully committing.
Savage? Oh, he doesn't catch the Batrider. He got Xavius. At least he found the Primal Beast once again, but Lelouch, very fast reactions on the bat.
Oof. It bails out in the nick of time. I'm not sure if they had enough damage to take care of both heroes. So that's Chrono down once more. And it's a nice pickup. You are fairly rich here on Xavius, but you would have much rather a core to really get some net worth flowing your way. And now the side of Polaris could still opt to play aggressive. They still have Ravage, they still have Egg. They've been kind of sitting on those spells for a while. They are using this opportunity to drop some forward wards, take back control in the top area of that jungle, and just kind of cut off what Talon wants to do. But Talon, they see some space, they try to farm up, they try to get that build up. Savage is still kind of farming decently. He's number 2, right next to Natsumi, 2k behind, but considering the start, hasn't been the worst thing in the world. And he is working onto Linken's. He just wants all the protection. He understands the damage will have to come from everyone else.
Well, there goes Hyde. Lelouch does pop his BKB to make sure that happens. Won't be able to find the follow-up Q kill. Or at least find himself an Observer Ward with this gem, so it does get a bit of added value here on that Batrider. Polaris still holding on to that 6k advantage. Natsumi still top the net worth board, but Savage is pretty much right behind him now. Only 1k behind in that Void. Going for the Lincoln Sphere build-up. Very, very defensive, but that's kind of what he needs at the moment as Polaris. They group up mid lane. KP the only one showing there for a moment on the Undying, but will also back off. And I start to ask the question here, John. Do you think Polaris is playing this too slow? Because they've still got a 5k advantage, but as time goes on, that 5k doesn't really mean much. And against the Void, like we always talk about the fact that Chrono is always going to be good. There's nothing to stop Chrono. Right? Where Ravage, for example, or Lasso can be blocked off by Lincolns and BKBs, nothing stops Chrono, though.
Nothing stops the Chrono. At the same time, even with, say, the BKB stopping some of these spells from Polaris, I do feel like they scale pretty well in line with Talon. Like, you still have this threat of Egg, and if Savage doesn't find a backline, which AU has been immaculate with staying a good distance away across all the series we've seen Polaris, as long as he's outside and gets a Supernova off, Savage will not feel comfy in a Chrono. You don't have that machine gun hero to take care of the Egg. You still have a lot of scaling left here for Natsumi. The side of Talon will smoke up. I mean, Chrono is off cooldown once more. They need to find something, but I understand why Polaris doesn't feel the need to really be aggressive. Although they will smoke on smoke now.
Smoke on smoke scenario. Polaris, they're going for the long wraparound through the river up towards the top side of that dire jungle. They'll try to make their way over and sneak up behind Talon. Talon also in the dire jungle just by the outpost. Their smoke will wear off. Polaris, they are still smoked up, but there's not much time left on it. There are wards here from Talon on the high ground, so they've got a vision advantage in this area. You always want to fight around your vision. Force, he will show himself taking the outpost of the dire side. And does successfully take it. Talon, still not interested in forcing a fight. I still believe that they are the weaker team here in terms of like their farm and their draft, and they will just sit back and relax for a bit. Roshan is up in 40 anyway, so you really don't want to give up all these big spells like the Chrono and the Dream Coil at the moment. Even the Tombstone, you'd rather hold on to that. But the same kind of story goes for Polaris. You need the Ravage, you need the Lasso, you need the Egg. Unless you can secure a full team wipe before Roshan spawns, you would rather not give up those kind of spells as Makoto. Playing with fire once again, but is going to be able to jaunt his way out. Oh, there's a very nice arcane rune there waiting. Maybe Polaris using it as bait, but no, Lelouch, he will just take it, jump in. Lasso is there immediately. They found the KP Undying. He'll drop the tombstone and pop his BKB. He's running out of there. KP is barely going to make it. As they will try to get the tombstone down, but now Savage, he'll jump in with the Chrono onto the Morphling, but the Strength Morphers there in time. He's going to be alright. He will tank through it. Now the Ravage is out. Savage, he'll keep going. He'll keep trying to get the damage out. But Force is a force to be reckoned with once again. He's just tanking through all of this. So they'll try onto Xavius instead. Go for the Primal Beast. They will stun him up and lock him down. Savage, he picks up a double.
Oh boy, that was quite the back and forth. KP, probably the one reason Talon managed to find that. They get distracted by the tombstone, Natsumi turns into the Undying form, drops his own tombstone, and that provides that really good angle for Savage to at least find a Chrono. Immediate smoke out here from Polaris though. No lasso,
Savage.
only the egg to play with.
He's got the rewind button here, Savage, as well, so he can really just start scouting out the high ground for his team if he needs to. This is when the Void starts to feel a little bit ridiculous. They do smoke up, Force right around the corner. AU, meanwhile, kind of revealing himself with those fire spirits. They're going to wrap around into that Radiant Triangle. Nobody spotted yet. Q with the Vendetta just rushing forward, trying to find a target. He may spot out Natsumi. Instead, Force is going to be the first one to get seen. As Force, he doesn't have Ravage this time. Lelouch going to jump in for a lasso attempt. Doesn't really want to pop it onto Q yet, but will be forced to onto the next assassin. They will find one. KP in trouble, gonna pop his own BKB. Still has the tombstone dropped as well. So they do try to move in onto that Undying. Meanwhile, Force, he will back off. So will Savage and KP, but Xavius, he will pulverize the Void. Savage in big trouble. Is gonna time walk away once again. He will survive. KP will also survive for now, but the onslaught is gonna fly through. KP does get caught out. Somehow still alive on the Undying, but the Sunray surely gets the damage out and does. But here comes Savage on the Void once again. He'll drop the egg on the high ground, not allowing Xavius to drop, but Savage, he might go right back in here on this Void and will onto the cliff. Meanwhile, Makoto, he's the one getting the damage out in the backside, finding Lelouch and finding Xavius. Onto AU, they will find the Phoenix as well. 3 down for Polaris. And Talon, they are onto the Roshan once again.
My god, KP's a madman. Like, legitimately, these last 2 fights have been off the back of KP getting some really good tombstones, forcing their attention onto the Undying first. And he still manages to live for a lot longer than he should. Q as well, forcing out the lasso onto himself rather than anyone else, provided an opening for Talon. And with that kind of back and forth fight, I mean, it's still hard for them to clear out Roche. They are showing a lot of respect to Polaris. Polaris looking to reform here.
Oh, they've got Chrono.
Lelouch,
another quick blink out on the Bat Rider, but it may not matter because the Spike Carapace and Impel from Q is going to lock him down. But where's the follow-up?
Hide?
Yeah.
Roche?
Died to Roshan, apparently. He'll buy back. Natsumi gonna get bashed up here by Savage, but he's got a double damage rune active. He'll try to fight, but he's out of mana. Makoto gonna chase him down. Impels off the mark, but Natsumi, he's gone without buyback. Here we go again. Roshan will get started.
Oh no. You know what we talked about with Polaris, Mikey? Their one issue. I don't quite see it. I think they're still playing really well, but I think a couple of those engagements might have gotten them a little bit, worked up. And streaming into that Roche back to back to back, knowing that Talon really needs that objective, and Talon just going back and forth, in and out, finding these angles. The fight's dragging long enough that the Chrono is back off cooldown. I mean, Talon has brought themselves back into a game that pretty much looked defeated. Like, you talked about this timing. There's still a lot of good combos from Polaris. Now the game is kind of evened out. Both sides have a lot of play left, but you have overtaken on Savage. And can we just say Mikado's performance on the puck this game is ridiculous. 9-0-6. He has just really opened up this game just by showing himself on the map, running around, finding these small pickoffs here and there, and forcing attention to himself. The same thing that KP's been doing, except he's been much more sacrificial. But Mikado, I mean, this is why Mikado's puck is probably one of the things that Talon falls back to when things are looking dire.
He's looking happy too, John. Look at that smile from Makoto. He was very, very satisfied with himself. And I do agree with you. I mean, Makoto's literally put the team on his back this game. He really, really has. There's no way Talon would have even made a bit of a comeback here had it not been for Makoto creating so much space for Savage. And now, well, they've got the Roshan, they've got the Aegis on Savage. Polaris, they are not out of this game yet. They've still got a very strong Morphling, but he has fallen behind quite a bit. Meanwhile, Force on that Tide, he does finally pick up that Scythe of Vice. So more lockdown for the Puck and for the Void. Especially the Puck. If you can catch out Makoto in these team fights, lock him down and take him out, it's going to make things a lot easier for Polaris to try and make a comeback now. But you really do have to get rid of Makoto because he's constantly just hunting the Batrider. He's hunting the Morphling. He's taking down the supports. It's very challenging. We're constantly watching Savage chronoing up heroes. But what you're not seeing is Makoto making sure nobody else can get involved.
Just cuts them off perfectly. I like his itemization here as well. I mean, he's gone really defensive, Lincoln's Blink, Kaya Sanj into an Aeon Disc. Like, this guy just doesn't want to die. Makoto understands as long as he's slippery, the rest of the team will have enough space to whittle them down in some of these longer fights. And even with that Hex coming out from Force, like, once this Aeon Disc is fully done on Makoto, I mean, locking this guy in is just tougher. And you have the Lincolns anyway. So you're going to have to preempt with Gush, which the Puck can dodge out with as well.
Tier 3 tower bottom lane. They've got a double siege creep here. They'll get started. Very strong timing now for Talon. Chrono is up as well. Dream Coil, everything's available. So is for Polaris though. They've got the Ravage up. They've got the Egg up. They've just got to try and get a good team fight to go their way. Tombstone drop preemptively. Try to protect the side of Talon. They aren't going to keep going for the tier 3 it seems. The siege troops go down. Talon, even with the Aegis up, they aren't in any kind of rush. They do not want to throw the game back the way of Polaris because they are still a very potent kind of team with this draft. You want to just keep the game going the way it is, keep that net worth going. Maybe give time for Savage to buy that Eye of Skadi up on the Void and really make Natsumi's life a living hell. So mid lane, you can see Talon, they look a lot more confident now, just jumping in with the Time War, clearing out a creep wave, and Polaris, they're the ones that look a little bit scared, but they go in for a lasso. They find the Void. That's the big one. Savage, he's gone the first time. That's the Aegis down. Xavius in the backside. He'll get the trample going. Savage, he just wants out of this. No Chrono quite yet. He'll just back his way away from the Eggers. Now they find the Puck Makoto. He's gone. Force will lock him down with the Scythe of Vice. That's what you need to get done from Polaris. Savage, he'll jump back in on Lelouch, but will knock Chrono. This is not the fight they wanted.
Yeah, they finally catch that slippery Puck. They commit. Savage just getting caught out. You have some big items here coming out from Polaris. This Blink out from Xavius, what we've been talking about. That BKB Blink initiation out from the Primal Beast. The ability to just pulverize the backline, jump and isolate the supports. Q and Hyde couldn't make their way forward to try to apply some control for Talon's end. And that evens the game out. Polaris, they definitely still are in the running. Of course, the game's been just sort of evened out. But they still have that power. If they fight under their own terms, they've got a lot to really play with here, and Talon has to respect that. Get a bit of a reality check. Kind of have to play a bit safe now until Makoto comes back up. I do believe he has the goal to almost fully buy out his Aeon Disc, and it is ready. With some extra gold for the buyback as well. So next time that move happens, he should have a little bit more leeway to kind of bail out in the nick of time. But didn't quite have it in that last fight, and might have made a big difference if he did. Aegis disappears though, and that does mean Talon should play a lot more cautiously. Although, with the big cooldowns down from Polaris' end, Talon could actually take a risk here if they so wish.
That's fair. I mean, you've got Ravage down for another minute. It's our Force. Always makes me chuckle when that voice line comes out. Even now, I still think it might be us, Jonathan, but it's not. It is not us. Talon. They'll hang back. They'll relax. Polaris. They'll do the same. They'll wait for Force to have that Ravage up. There's just no need to rush. AU's going to have the egg up in 2 seconds. But you do want that big AoE stun. 30 seconds away from that. I wonder what... In fact, never mind. I was going to ask you what Natsumi would build up into now, but he is going into the Satanic. Looks like he wants a Butterfly straight after that. Which does mean Savage is probably going to have to start working on towards an MKB of some sort. try and really get the damage out onto the Morphling. But once he at least has the Satanic, he will have capability of just man-fighting this Void. Mind you, Savage now, he does have that Skadi.
Has a way of at least putting a dent in that attribute shift on Natsumi and maybe just force the active of the Satanic a little bit earlier on. A lot of movement here, almost coalescing towards the mid-river area. Roche still 2 minutes away.
Both teams just want to make sure they control that area of the map, it seems. Ravage is up on force. Q does get spotted. Will realize there's a sentry ward around that area and does back his way out. Polaris, they'll just keep holding onto that Radiant Triangle. Talon, they'll hold onto that Dire Jungle. Nobody really rushed until the next Roshan is up. Of course, we also have an Aghanim Scepter being built up here by AU. Not something we get to see very often on Phoenix these days, but he wants to be able to have the ability to save his teammates throughout these engagements. Even the extra attacks to destroy the egg is going to be very, very effective, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Mid lane, jump in. They do find Xavius. Onslaught is going to be there. Coil was committed. Xavius, he will pop the BKB to be able to get out. And does make it out, but just barely.
I think you take that trade. BKB down on Primal Beast. That blink pulverizes and as easy.
Lush, they found KP. On the Undying, he'll never get the Tombstone off. Force making sure he is locked down with the Scythe device after the lasso. Not risking the Tombstone. We are going to have another pause. This time, Lelouch is having some lag issues, I'm sure. There you go, some FPS drops, it seems. Roshan, though, 40 seconds away from telling us when it's going to respawn. Could be early, could be late. Still a very close match between these two teams. Only less than 1k net worth lead here for Talon. Dota Plus right now thinking 57% win probability here for Talon, 43% the way of Polaris. Probably going to go up a little bit for Polaris because they did just kill off that Undying. And so this is really still anyone's game.
Yeah, it can still go either way. It's all down to execution. You've got the team fight on both sides. You've got the tools from both sides to kind of get this done. I still feel like execution's a lot easier for Polaris, especially if you do find those pickoffs. Ravage Egg is still big. Lasso is always good. Blink, Pulverize with a BKB up is pretty much unstoppable. And for Talon, it just requires such a good chrono, such a lot of space to be bought out here by Mikado, by KP. Still have some FPS issues. I mean, it's Southeast Asia. This is the purest Southeast Asian game, Mike. Gotta have a lot of pauses.
Absolutely. You never told me how your dinner went last night while we were waiting, John. Did you have that carbonara again, or what was it? You had some pasta dish?
Oh, what did I have last night? Gosh,
Chicken
no,
and
I had some
something.
spaghetti. Yeah, chicken and spaghetti from fast food. You know, our national fast
Jollibee?
food. Very good, of course. Jollibee, very good food. Nice. I had a good day. Yeah, like
Right.
chicken, joy, and spaghetti. You can't have a bad day when you have that for your food. It's always happy.
I wouldn't know yet, Jonathan. I haven't found one in Oz yet. I wouldn't know.
I think it is
Eventually
there.
I'll know.
I've showed you on the map. It's somewhere there in Sydney. Somewhere.
Yeah, but I don't want to go to the city, dude. I live 2 hours away from the city. I'm not driving up there. And I told you, I'd rather come to the Philippines and get the authentic experience. I want the original. I don't want any, westernized version of it. I want the original.
All right. Well, we'll make sure. That is definitely on the bucket list, Mike. What else is done on the bucket list here is the Ags on AU already finished up. So a save in that egg. Additional hits. They don't have the best attack speed on Talon outside of Savage. Roche is pretty fast. It's going to be up. And a smoke from Polaris. This could be great timing for them if they find the angle here.
Yeah, Roshan, like you mentioned, John, has spawned up now. This is extremely good timing for Polaris. That egg can be very deceiving as well. Like, as long as AU doesn't reveal he's got the Ags up, it can be so hard if he does get a save and give someone a secondary life. It's basically a free Aegis on a cooldown of 120 seconds. Polaris. Oh, it's going to be a big smoke. Talon will wrap around through their own jungle. 5-man smoke. Problem is, can they make it to the Radiant Triangle? Or they get some wards down. No vision to spot that one out. Xavius, he's going to get caught immediately on the Primal Beast, and he's gone. He does have buyback. He may need to commit it for this team fight if Roshan does get started. See if Talon do want to take the risk. They will.
They're still sort of holding control in the triangle here. The ward just again giving them the vision they need. They're not fully committing for the Roche yet. They need to find these bigger teamfight heroes. Like either AU goes or Force goes. You cannot afford to take this fight knowing that Ravage Egg already. They are poking the Roche, maybe looking for the response out, using this forward ward. Q is standing outside. They do force the buyback here.
Roshan's going down fast here though, John. Satanic board out. This could be dangerous. Makoto! Side device was there, but the Aeon Disc will save his life this time around. Roshan's gone. Stun is there. Force, he's going to jump in the Aegis.
Shard.
Oh, he's stolen the Aegis away. The rock throw from the Primal Beast working out, but now the Chrono, it's caught nothing. Oh, it's caught nothing. Savage, he'll refresh up, keep the fight going. Who are we aiming for, though? Natsumi, he'll go after KB. Force, he takes the tombstone out, and now the secondary Chrono is out. Where's the damage output? The Sunray, AU, trying to save the day, and now the egg comes out onto Natsumi. Refresh everything on the Morphling. Oh, my goodness. What was that?
Holy crap. Rock throw.
That was the rock
Who would have
throw?
expected rock throw to actually set up for a big Ravage? They find KP now as well. And this buyback from Xavius, this shard pickup, just giving them that opening. Holy goodness, we've never seen that. Like, what the hell? Like, everyone memes about rock throw, but damn, that's done.
Yeah, the funniest thing was, I was going to ask you if I was going to meme about it 2 minutes ago, John. I was going to make a joke about how bad the spell is. Xavius, he buys back. I'm thinking, oh, this is the most wasted buyback I've ever seen. And then suddenly Rock Throw works out. Well, there you go. Meanwhile, Natsumi, he's found Hyde again on the Skywrath. And suddenly, Jonathan, we have a game on our hands once again. Still 1k advantage for Talon. We are 45 minutes in. The net worth, it doesn't matter. Makoto, he's going to be careful. No Aeon Disc available right now. It's on a 7-second cooldown. Onslaught is there. Xavius, he will try to chase down the puck. He won't find him. Polaris, they are not out of this game yet. They are going to keep going.
Yeah, they've got this good angle for high ground. Their teamfight spells are down for a little bit longer, but not too long. And they know that they've managed to take away some refresh uses. They probably see the refresh orb on Savage, so they should be aware double chrono is still a possibility here. And that is the one worry they have, but they've revealed all their cards as well. They've shown the Ag Supernova, they've shown the Shard from Xavius, and it is actually ridiculous. Talon needs to find a good angle for this high ground, a lot hanging on the back of Savage to kind of work an angle here somehow.
Oh, Savage, Lincoln's broken. Oh, that was the lasso expended. No lasso available. Savage, he'll jump in, but he's cautious. Chrono's up in 10. He wants the double chrono. There's your egg out. AU, he's going to save the day again. He won't let Lelouch die like this. Lelouch is going to be just fine. And they will back off. Polaris, they've got to be careful though. Savage, he's got double chrono available now. Looking for some targets. Nobody's showing up yet. Makoto, he's going to get caught by the pulverize. Savage, trying to get within range for that chrono. He's not close enough. He has a time walk. He'll commit it. Lelouch, he does finally get taken up, but there's your buyback on that Batrider. Another rock throw. Forcing the BKB out from Savage. Meanwhile, Chrono is out again, but he has not caught out Natsumi. He only got the Phoenix AU and now the Ravage Force. He will try to turn this one around. They've got the sight device on the void. Savage somehow still alive. Right? Oh no, Savage. He rewinded. That's a misclick. He'll buy back. Q, he's gonna drop as well. Makoto back in onto the tide, still trying, but Force is too tanky. AU, never mind. Makoto, he'll take him down. Savage right back in, looking for the dieback onto AU. Might just have it. Lock him down and take him out. AU's gone for 100 seconds. But they do force some buybacks out from Talon. The one being Savage really on that Void. Bit of a mistake there from Void, John. Maybe just a misclick on the reverse time walk. And it does cost him.
Yeah, it cost them dearly here in Talon's End. That's an opening for Polaris. If they manage to isolate out Savage, melt him down, that kind of ruins Talon for a long time. That opens up the high ground in a big way. No Roshan to play off the back for that buyback either. I mean, you did force the buyback out for Lelouch, and you did find the dieback on AU, as you pointed out, but you need to kind of kill off Lelouch here to feel better. Maybe even find the pick off on Natsumi. We have seen that the Morphling can still melt, and once it's out of mana, with Q just focusing in that mana burn on the Morph, it takes a couple of uses, maybe even just 3 spellcasts, but you empty Natsumi out, the Morphling is not as much of a threat. Like, it won't be able to shift around. You lose your Butterfly here as well in the Courier, at the very least the Quarterstaff for the build-up, so you're not going to be able to just get into that item immediately. It stalls out for 3 minutes as well. Good window for the side of Talon to play with. They will have double chrono back in about 60 seconds, but Egg is ready to go on the respawn of AU. Ravage is going to be ready at that time as well, and Force is also working towards his own refresh. So you will have a lot of options to actually force out these fights next. I don't think you have enough mana on Force to actually get all of it, as the refresh cost, if I recall right, is 300. Now he has enough, barely enough, but it does make the fights a lot tougher for Talon, and the way they're winning these fights just feels like it's on such a small margin that Polaris, if they fix up their execution just a little bit more, they should be able to take more away from Talon the next few engagements.
Here we go. 5-man smoke up. Polaris, they're going to try once again. It's a big one. Wrap around through the right side of the jungle. Very long wraparound. Polaris just trying to find somebody on the map. Makoto, not spotted out either. Hoping for someone to show down a bot lane.
I didn't notice this earlier. You've got the Ags up and hide. The big thing there is just double Ancient Seal. It's probably the best bet you have for counter control, especially as the BKBs fade. So it's actually really important Hyde stays alive. You might actually want an Ags up in Q as well, but he is opting for the Octarine. He wants more uptime. Smoke out here from Talon.
Double smoke. In fact, Jonathan, they're very stressed out right now. Just chain smoking here from Talon. Refresher orb available on Force, so double Ravage is available. This could be terrible timing for Talon if they're not careful. Makoto, he's a big target, but he does have Aeon Disc up. He'll blink right in very confidently, trying to buy some information and time for his team to make their way over. Who are they aiming? KP was the target. Chrono on the backside. Natsumi, he got caught out on the Chrono. Savage, he'll refresh another time. Natsumi's gone.
Oh no.
He's got buyback. He'll be back into the fight. No chrono available now for the side of Talon. Force gonna jump in. Still has the Ravage. Does throw it out again. That's the second one available as Q. Will go down on the Nyx Assassin. Another rock throw from Xavius. There's your lasso out onto KP. They've got the Undying, but he is still alive. Instead, they'll go on to Hyde. KP, he's in dire straits. He will be left alone to go down. Polaris. Onto the high ground they go. There are 3 heroes down on Talon.
Oh man. Now the high ground's just completely open. Without the threat of Chrono, without even the Dream Coil available, they'll at least find 1, probably 2, maybe all Rats.
Uh-oh.
Without that team fight available, and they will buy back, going for the tier 4s.
Straight onto the tier 4s. They are not messing around. They've had enough of this game. Let's see what kind of magic Savage and Makoto can try and make happen. Sight device is there. Natsumi, he'll waveform him, but he has to back out as well. He's unhealthy. No T4s. Makoto, he'll keep going. Onto the Morphling. They'll force the Glimmer Cape and they'll force them to back off. So 1 racks up. Talon do successfully defend high ground. That almost looked like that was GG. But Makoto, he's a real problem on this puck. They just have troubles dealing with him.
Yeah, he's very slippery. Octarine up, overwhelming blink. The guy's just doing so much damage going in and out. Even has a Stormcrafter to save. Like it's so hard to handle Makoto at this moment. Roshan, 1.5 minutes until it respawns. Talon's gonna need to really fight around this area well. You will still have the threat of double Ravage. The egg saves from AU have been massive. And the side of Talon, I mean, it's a complicated set of fights. Like, yeah, they find Natsumi, they get the buyback from him. They need to kill him off one more time to really feel secure here. Savage, his buyback's still 2 minutes away. Both of these cores in very, very awkward positions in terms of re-engaging now. But I think the pressure's on Talon to make something happen. Refresh up on Lelouch. Double lasso ready. Lots of control coming out here. Gonna be a tough one for both sides if someone else gets a proper angle in.
Well, here we go. Let's see how that turns out here. Both teams still such a close game. 71% win probability right now for Polaris. Net worth only 4k the way of Talon. Roshan, that's what's important. 30 seconds away from respawning. It's Roshan, most important one of the game now, 53.5 minutes into this one. We saw last time Xavier setting up for a perfect Ravage from Force with that Tab Rock throw. It's something nobody was expecting, I'm sure. See if they can do it again. They've got the double Ravage available for this next Roshan fight. Double Chrono up as well. Roshan, 2 seconds away. KP, how patient are you? Patient enough, he'll see it. Double damage rune. Right on time.
Yeah, but it feels so awkward for them to try to go for that Roche without finding a pick-off. Like, Talon needs to find a kill first. If they break up that combination from Polaris, it starts to feel a bit better. But it still hinges on Savage kind of finding a good chrono and Mikado just jumping the backline in a good way with a Dream Coil. And they always have to keep an eye down bot. So every single time Mikado has to go elsewhere, clear out the lane, come back in. It provides a window for Polaris to actually play in here.
Keep in mind as well, John, there's only 3 buybacks available right now on the map. One of those is Makoto. Force and of course Xavius on the other side have buybacks, and that's it. KP with the zombie slowly chipping away at Roshan. There's that rock throw again. You've got to be so cautious. It seems so powerful in the Roshan. In that Roshan pit, it's just such a small area. Lelouch, he's going to break the smoke blink out immediately. Savage, he'll time walk up. We'll see nobody, but there's your Ravage Force.
Oh,
he got all 4 of them, and there's your follow-up as well. Oh, he's got the whole team. Savage will buy back. You've got no Ravage? No. No more Ravage available. Not for the Roshan fight. Savage is brought back. They might have to force Roshan.
Yeah, they should have a clear path. Double lasso down as well. Egg taken away. No saves. This is a big opportunity for Talon. Their patience pays off. Savage just waits for his buyback, gets back in time. If they kill Natsumi in the next 3 minutes, he won't have buyback. And that will put a very awkward position up for the side of Polaris. Comes out with a free Ags, the free refresh, additional Chronos that can come in here. Although it does look like they'll give it to KP for more tombstones here. Maybe more BKB and Aeon Disc uses as well. And Savage with the Ags, when he does time walk in, it provides a much better window for him to look for the chrono, to figure out if he wants to commit or reverse the time walk. And Polaris, I mean, it's a nice kill, it's a nice buyback to force out, but with the ages up, Talon does compensate for that risk.
Crazy, crazy game, Jonathan. What a crazy game we have on our hands. 56 minutes in now. Crazy the fact that Savage just barely got that buyback. You just talked about it, John, but he didn't have it a few seconds earlier, that's for sure. Very just patient from Savage this time around. Polaris, grouped up bot lane. Just keeping that wave forced in. They want to make sure that Talon are forced to try and defend with this Aegis up. Even KB losing his Refresher Shard and the Lincoln Sphere. That's a shame.
Yeah, that's pretty big to stall out for 3 minutes. The double Tombstone, double Aeon Disc, double BKB on the Undying, who has been really impactful in the middle of these fights. It's going to be a pretty big loss. Especially since KP has his level 20 talent. 2-second decay cooldown, BKB's fade. He's going to soften up all these targets for the rest of the team to kind of clean up on. So that's a pretty good take to just randomly find. Nullifier up on Natsumi to take care of the Aeon Discs. So you have a counter to that save on the side of Talon. And Talon, I mean, they're kind of letting time slip by. Buyback for Natsumi is going to be back up in a minute and a half. You do have the egg ready to go. Double Ravage only half a minute away. Double Lasso, not there, but you do have the Lasso ready on hand at the least. Was something sold? I feel like we saw Lelouch just sell off for an Octarine buildup now.
I'm not sure what he sold there, John, but whatever is necessary. He's very close now to the Octarine build, just a 100 gold away just about. All spells up once again. Even with this 11k net worth lead for Talon, it doesn't seem to matter. It won't mean much at this stage of the game, especially 2 minutes from now. They might not want to wait that long, because you know what happens 2 minutes from now, John. Things get very RNG based. Talon. You see Savage, he's queued up that moonshot. He's already 6 slotted. He's got no space for the brown boots, or rather just the boots or treads anymore. Not even for his own BKB or refresher orb. What if switching needs to happen in the next team fight here for Savage? I could say the exact same thing for most sides. Polaris, if they can just hold out, if they can hold their high ground, find somewhere to farm on the map, just hit that jungle. Again, those tier 5 items, John, they do turn games real quick if you get the right ones.
Yeah, only a minute left as well. Does feel like they'll have some leeway if Talon does decide to back off. Ages for a minute 40 though. They've got a window here to still look to play, but buyback is up and running once more on Natsumi. The issue is he doesn't have the gold. So if you catch the Morphling somehow, that's still a big win for Talon if they manage to make it work.
Makoto already taking down half the HP of this Batrider. Savage not going to chrono. He has 2 of them, but he'll just go for the racks for now. Another minute and a half on that Aegis available, so doesn't want to waste too much time. Just wants something for his trouble. Savage is going to jump in. There's your chrono. He found Lelouch the Batrider. That's 1 down. He does have buyback. Back to the bot racks they go. Just looking to finish this one off. Refresh is there, just prepping for the next team fight if it does get forced out. Will they get this bot racks? They don't have a creep wave. It doesn't seem like they can. Makoto, he is indeed clearing out mid. And that'll be enough. Savage, he'll get at least the melee barracks. They'll go for another. Mid-tier 3 tower now. Xavier's forced to BKB up. Rock throw is there. Onto 2 targets. Savage still has that secondary chrono available. Makoto, he'll make the jump in. A lot of damage being dealt. They really don't want to buy back on Lelouch. They are holding out. 60 minutes is now upon us. Talon, they're going to go farm the jungle. Or are they? Is this a pump fake back? Xavius, you are way out of position here, Xavius. Dream Coil is out. Sunray will be there. AU, he could try for an egg save, but it doesn't look good. He's still trying to run, Xavius. Can't make it out. He does also have buyback. But Talon are in a position where they can try to force them to commit those buybacks if they wish. And they may just.
Radiant's middle barracks are under
They get the refresh shard up again, so triple chrono ready to go for Savage if he wants. Double at the least, as he already lost his refresh orb usage, so 2 chronos still available, 2 BKBs still available. He does have the Aeon disc to save as well, and he will find the mid. Mega creeps are protected by a tier 2. So Polaris has some room to breed here, but it's not going to take too long for that top to disappear. They need to stabilize the creep waves though, and it is far out. Should be time to farm for those tier 5 neutrals here, Mikey. KP is actually the only one to kind of get that done here for Talon. So he knows what's up, Mike. He's looking for the items. See if they have any luck. Oh.
Look at the shadows. What? Do you like that one, John? Do you think that's a good one?
It can be useful. Like, the save potential is actually pretty big. It's a great support item. So, think about this. Like, if you're in a bad spot, you say Savage gets jumped, just target Book of the Shadows on him. Really good to kind of save. And I think that's where the value really comes in. If you don't really have a good hero front line that survives long enough to save, it feels pretty bad. Otherwise, it can actually be highly effective. So, not the best, but it's situational enough.
What's that one? 40% damage reduction. A reflection, excuse me, for 5 seconds. Okay. Doesn't seem amazing. Well, I guess we'll see it if one of the Talon boys want to pick it up. There it is. That's the one we want.
Oh.
That's the one we want. Giant's Ring and Book of the Dead coming up for the side of Polaris. Everyone wants to see the Giant Void, and they will get the Giant Void.
Oh god,
Bottom lane,
the Arcana
team
Giant
fight to
Void.
break out. AU, he gets Dream caught up. They've got the Phoenix. AU can do nothing, but he does have buyback. Look at Savage. He's
the
huge.
Arcana, the Giant Arcana. This
Bless
reminds
David.
me of some. This reminds me of a campaign from that one game that we
Oh.
played Dota on. Oh, it's beautiful. I love this. Look at him in his glory.
Imagine that, John.
Massive.
Arcana out. Gaben gives him the Giant's Ring just so everyone can see it more. Very, very
yeah.
good, Gaben. I love your strats.
Under attack.
Last set of racks here, Mike, for Polaris. They've got to find a way to stop this. They have double Ravage ready. They do have double Lasso back up once more.
Very patient. They do force out the buyback from AU. Who's taking the Stygian Desolator? Nobody. It's just in the backpack of Savage. I suppose if he lands a nice chrono, he could always switch it out. It's like that Giant's Ring is too hard to say no to. So annoying with that, just being able to just run around.
Radiant
Just no terrain necessary. Dealing damage just walking over people. Tanking you up. He's got 4.3k HP on this Void. He's tanky. Force.
Force.
To get jumped. Lasso, meanwhile, on the backside, they do find the Skywrath Mage, so Hyatt's going to go down, but Force is in big trouble. They will save with the egg, though. AU is not going to allow it. Savage, he's going to jump in, but the egg stun is there. They lock him down. He gets no chrono yet. He'll keep going, but there's your Ravage out, connecting on 3 targets. Now the Lasso holds down the Void. Savage, he buys back. This is dangerous for Talon. They've got to be careful. Polaris, in the meantime, they lose lane Luge, but the side of Polaris, they're the ones that need to back off now. Natsumi, he's in trouble. He'll die back, or rather just die, but he does have buyback as AU. He will go down. That's an actual dieback on the Phoenix. It's Makoto. We'll keep going. Force will be fine. So there's one down without buyback. That's the Phoenix. There's Natsumi's buyback being committed now.
Radiant's top tower is under
The
attack.
annoying part is they haven't really got any T5 items going for them apart from a couple here on the Radiant. They only got the Book of the Dead. That's the saddest part. You got the Necromonicons, but you can't push.
No. And Roshan is within 15 seconds here. AU is not going to be around for that one in the fight. They had to expend at least one Ravage. They still have the double ready. Double Lasso is down. So only one Ravage less in the repository. No egg for the next 70 seconds. Another Sight of Vice coming out, this time from Xavius.
Force. Get jumped on. KP, he's right in. Force is dropping a little bit lower. Spike Carapace, they call Luge. He's going to be so cautious with the chrono. Going to lock him down, Savage. That's a dieback on the Bat Rider. Another chrono. He's caught Force this time on the Tide. But Force does have buyback. He'll need to commit it here, and will do so as the coil is there, locking down Xavius. Force, he'll move back in, so will Natsumi. The silence is out, the impel locks him down. The Morphling, still fine, but for how long? He'll try to go for the fight, but there's so many silences.
No!
Natsumi is gone. That's it. Ravage is out. Force is trying, but there's no follow-up damage. Talon, after 65, 66 minutes indeed, it looks like they have done it. As Force will drop, GG is called. Oh, it was a real back and forth game number 1 here between these two. But what a game 1 it was. We said it would be close, John. I didn't realize it would be this close.
That was just insane from both sides. Polaris have this amazing start. Their lineup just managed to stall out. They didn't mind taking it slow. Talon just couldn't farm. For Talon's part, they were sacrificing the right heroes early on, right? Like, it was mainly Hyde, mainly KP dying. Mikado kind of just dodged out for such a long time. And it felt like even at the end game, Polaris had these solutions. They had double Ravage, they had double Lasso, and they had this great Ags build-up from AU for the saves. Just not enough. Talon managed to eke out. I think the big thing that gave Talon the edge was their decisions to sacrifice Savage. Because when he would die, he would have buyback, and he knew they've already committed some of those big spells. So he could just buyback, come in with another chrono from the refresh, and just win out, especially in that last fight. He just makes this weird decision to time walk in, time walk back, gets caught by Ravage, locked down, but he buys back, and Polaris did have nothing to play with. Like, Talon just played on like a very bleeding edge. You can see how tight this match is. Like, the kill board's all over the place. Mikado, the closest to having a perfect game, only one death on that puck over an hour and 5 minutes. That is just maddening how well he played in that puck.
Oh, he's the MVP by far. Like, if Makoto didn't have this puck, the game was over. Polaris, they had such a dominant lead throughout the mid game, throughout even the late game. And Makoto, he just bought so much time. So much time on this puck. Literally put the team on his back and carried this game for them. So props to him. He'll be the MVP of game number 1. Jonathan, that does mean we get to head off to a very short break because we have a game 2 draft coming up here between Polaris Esports and Talon Esports. Don't go anywhere. This series only gets more hype. We'll be right back.
Esports is what we live and breathe. For us, it's more than a game. It's a reality where a group of letters can mean everything. Where runes are collected and Aegis can only be won in battle. Where centaurs can give you a ride. Where the true heroes are those in front of the screen. GG Bet. This is real.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are going into our Game 2 draft between Polaris Esports and Talon Esports. John, I don't know how you're going to answer this question, but I've got to ask you. What do Polaris Esports need to change up to try and force us to a game number 3? Go on, John. Give me an answer to that one.
I think they actually played really well. They managed to hit all their spikes. Maybe just getting a bit flustered at the end. I mean, it did look like Talon provided a lot of openings, especially with the way Savage was playing up front. Very risky on that Faceless Void. At the same time, it felt like Savage was taking calculated risks. Like, he would die, he would look pretty weird, time walking around, time walking into an egg with his BKB, but he knew he had buyback, it just came off cooldown, and he would come in with a refresh, and his team could clean up once those big team fight spells were done. So it took like sacrificial play from Talon to make these openings happen from Polaris, and I think Polaris, they've got to be able to maybe plan ahead that same distance. Like, it just feels like that it's only a sliver of an advantage Talon found off the back of those risky plays, but Polaris needs to be the ones also taking some risks towards the end of the game. They were the ones that were kind of stuck in the high ground. They weren't forcing out fights. There were a lot of moments where they'd find these key kills and they wouldn't be able to follow through with the threat of the egg and Ravage. So I think just more activity out from Polaris probably is key. There was a moment like maybe 15 to 25 minutes where Savage was just completely shut down. The only threat was Mikoto, and they were running around with this really fast BKB, blink timings on their cores, and they just kind of sat back and farmed. Now, their scaling was good, but that did provide Talon an opening to kind of look for the game down the line there.
Well, the draft has begun here, John. Marcy Void is the opening once again. I'm surprised Talon are actually able to take this Void away another time, because we saw how potent the Void is. Even with a couple mistakes being made by Savage, it just didn't matter. I mean, you could kind of give it to Makoto. Obviously, we did name him the MVP after that game 1, but the Void just proving to be so powerful. Speaking of powerful, though, that Primal Beast, Xavier's, he was doing so much work, man. He tried so hard. That rock throw into the Ravage and the Aegis Steel, that was just absolutely splendid to watch from Polaris Esports, but it just didn't prove to be enough. They'll follow up with a Lich as well here on Polaris's end. John, talk to me about the mentality of Polaris right now. After a game like that, 66 minutes, you end up losing game 1. Such a close affair. You can see the faces right now. I don't know if they look upset, but there's a little bit of, there's something in there. You know, you can't be happy after that game 1 for Polaris. What are you thinking? What's going through the minds of Polaris right now?
I feel like, again, it goes back to AU. With him, not just as coach, but as a player, he's able to directly connect with him a lot better because he's in that game. He knows what just happened. He was there with him. So he can level them out a lot more. I think after a game like that for Polaris, you know, there's some games where you lose and you feel like absolutely terrible. There's some games where you lose and you're like, we did pretty damn well. Let's reset. We can do it in the next game. And I think that last game was one of those games for Polaris, where they're like, we did everything we could. We executed pretty damn well for most of that game. Just have a couple of issues to fix up, and that should motivate them. I think after a game like that, I feel like Polaris should be able to actually look at that, realize, all right, Talon actually made so many mistakes that we could have capitalized on. We just need to force them to do that again and realize those mistakes and close it out. And I'm sure the guiding voice of AU will kind of help them plan around that here.
Let's see, Doom coming out as well, a hero we have not seen as of late, but obviously very potent in the current meta as well. The new Ags upgrade proving to be very, very effective against a hero like Void as well. You'd love having Doom. Force him to buy that Lincoln Sphere later on here on Savage. The Doom coming out quite a potent pick, I would argue, here from Polaris Esports, and a nice switch up for their draft, that's for sure. Again, though, you do have the option of running support Void. You know, that's still available to run if you do wish, if you want to flex it that way. Not that I'm saying that is going to be what happens, because Savage loves playing the Void, but you never know. You could still make that happen if you want.
Yeah, it does feel like, and you've got answers for the Void once more, but Talon just doesn't seem to mind. In fact, it feels like they just prioritize the Void because it gets second phase banned. So they just kind of pick it up. They want to give Savage the hero he really excels on. I think, again, you look at Polaris and their opening, back into the Primal Beast with a Lich. The Doom just makes it hellish for Savage once more. And we have seen some Dooms go for different builds. Like, we have seen Infernal Blade actually rise up in priority. You can also just devour a nice mana burn creep, removing Savage's saving presence with a Time Walk. There's a lot of ways to play that lane for Polaris if they want, and there is still some flexibility on the Doom, as we have seen safe lane Doom come out here and there, although the off lane Doom does feel more popular now with a build up. So keen to see where they go from there. I like that they do respect ban this Mikado puck, because it, as you and I pointed out, Mikado just felt like the big factor that allowed Talon to actually take that game late. And he just played like a madman. He was picking off people, forcing these fights to be very spread out while the rest of his team gathered attention on themselves. And they had no hard hold. So they have to respect that. They also take out the Batrider themselves here in Polaris, and Talon do pick up the Dazzle. So that should be our Hyde hero. You do have good saves coming out onto the Void. Hyde did a pretty damn good job with the silences, and we didn't really see a Book of Shadows play, but kind of the same mindset now with the Dazzle. With the Shallow Grave, you should be able to enable Savage. In fact, a lot of your lineup feels like it's just there to help this face's Void this time around. Morsi Sidekick's gonna help. You don't have that much damage going into the Chrono. Right now, you only have this Quap for Mikado, but you have a lot of ways of making Savage feel stronger and safer in that Chrono when it does come out.
Absolutely. You certainly do. There's the Kunkka coming out now for Polaris, so a real big switch up coming out here. See, the Kunkka very good against the Queen of Pain, not only during the laning stage, but having the X back against Quap and Void is always going to be very, very effective throughout this game, especially before they have those BKBs up, or even catching out heroes like the Marcy and the Dazzle going to be very effective there with the X up from the Kunkka. So I think that's a very, very strong pick coming out from Polaris Esports, and you'd have to agree, John, a lot of value for the Kunkka this game.
Yeah, like, the saving factor with the boat buff is big. X back to hold something mobile like the Morsi or the Quap is going to be really good as well. And that does give you a good lane match. We have seen Quap against Kunkka, and Lelouch has played a lot of mid Kunkka all the way back to his Adroit days. It's something he specializes in almost to the same extent that we know Yopaj does. And the Quap Kunkka lane is pretty Kunkka favored. Like, Quap doesn't have that much presence there. You can play with Shadow Strike. Tidebringer just kind of owns that lane. So I think they're setting themselves up for a better game here on Polaris. But just by slowing Mikado down, you do have a better time. Because the Batrider lane for Lelouch up against the puck wasn't quite a win. Mikado was finding more. This time around, Lelouch should have a better time.
I go back to the point you made earlier as well, by the way, John. I mean, you pointed out AU having that kind of the presence to be able to just tell the team, like, calm down, it was a good game, let's reset and go for game number 2. And you see how stoic the man looks as well in that previous camera shot. Just does not look bothered. You almost wonder if the guy's breathing. He's just a statue, Jonathan. No feelings whatsoever from AU. Just complete composure.
Yeah, and that's what you want to see from your coach, from your captain. I mean, just allow them to reset, stay calm, figure out what you want to do. Surprised that they respect ban the Phoenix themselves. Seeing that possibility of Egg Chrono, Sunray in Chrono is pretty big. They are already assuming that KP will take the Morsi offlane, which is fair. We have seen KP play that hero since its debut in Captain's mode on the offlane. And that was when offlane Morsi felt like a little bit more of a waste. This time around, it feels a lot better, just because you have more impact with a rebound. So it allows you to focus on core items a lot faster than, say, diverging for this Blink and Aether Lens. And they will go with a Pangolier, so that should shift the Marcy now. That could be our KP here. There's some flex here. I mean, that could be a Mikado Pango, and KP takes something like the Quap offlane. So it's fairly open for them to kind of figure out whether or not they get a lot of value from the offlane Pango here.
It could even be a Quap Pos 4 if you really want, right? Like, if you wanted the Pos 3 Marcy, Quap Pos 4 seems like a pretty strong lane, and Well, like you said, like Pango against Kunkka might be a bit better as well for Makoto. You already kind of pointed that out, so let's see. I mean, Talon, they do have a lot of flexibility with this draft. The only thing I think we can say for sure is it's probably going to be the position 1 Void again, unless we see the pos 1 Marcy. Highly doubt any other team apart from T1 have been practicing that, though, to be fair, so highly doubt that. I think you just go the pos 1 Void once again. But there is certainly a lot of flexibility with every other single lane. Meanwhile, though, Polaris, one more pickup to go. They need to carry on their end of things. Against the Void, against the Quap, against the Pango, is there something that comes to mind for you, John?
Nothing that really strikes me as a very good pick. Like, they tried a Morphling last time, but it is open, and, you know, it's still not that bad of a Morphling game at all. So you could maybe opt for that. You've got the Pangolier to form into, the Marcy for Morphling to turn into. You love to point out, gives you a lot more mobility. Sidekick on yourself is really nice. Wouldn't mind that too much for Natsumi. You could maybe opt for, I don't know, it's not the best Terrorblade game. It does feel like you have enough magic damage here on Talon to kind of take care of that. You could go for a more active core. You know how slow Talon wants to play, and they go with the Lone Druid. So we see the LD come out, and that has been also rising in popularity across different regions. It can be effective. We do see Mikado pick up the Pango. So the question is, yeah, KP takes the Marcy, Q will take the Quap, and we have seen Q play Quap, but that was all the way back to Motivate Trust days. So this is a bit of a throwback for him.
Certainly is. Maybe, I don't know if they're overreacting here to the draft of Polaris. I mean, again, it was a very close game 1, so I think Talon going to pay a lot of respect here to this dire side, and yeah, I mean, it's interesting, John.
They swap Force and Xavius as well. Xavius takes the Doom 4. Force plays the offlane Primal Beast here, which is it's interesting because I felt like Force did such a great job in the 4 Primal Beast that you don't really need to have it as a core. The impact was felt from Force early on, from Xavius early on, but Xavius on the Doom, I don't know if I really like that because Doom as a support, sure, it still finds farm with Devour, but it feels like, you know, your Midas is going to be a little bit slower. That means your Blink BKB is slower, your Refresh is going to be really later on, and the Ags might be a bit of a pipe dream. So I think taking that utility away from the Doom by demoting it to a 4 and giving Force priority, it doesn't feel necessary, but it does allow them to be a lot more aggressive from the Primal Beast with his earlier timing, so that might be what Polaris is gunning for.
See how this one goes, Jonathan. Game number 2. I mean, game 1 was just so great to watch here between these two teams, going all the way to 66 minutes. Talon barely able to take it out. Polaris just not giving up throughout this upper bracket. This is, I must say, I mean, Polaris Esports, it's so good to see these guys like performing so well in the upper bracket. Even if they did drop that game 1, you know, they've just been such an up and down team. But it seems like when it matters, they've really shown up. Let's just see if they can show up and force us to a Game 3 here against Talon Esports, because you and I, that's what we want, John. We want Game 3 to come out here between these two. Of course, I know people are waiting for the T1 match. We all know everyone's waiting for RSG versus T1. It's coming. Don't you worry, guys. It is coming. In fact, I mean, this series might be more hype because, again, Makoto had some words about T1 before the qualifiers started, so I'm sure people would love to see Talon versus T1 if it ever came to it in the upper bracket. We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see if it happens. Before that, though, John, it's your turn. Predictions.
Which team will win? I'm going to say Talon. And I know you guys have got something to say about that. Still, it's early smoke break. Maybe some action. No, not quite yet. Player with the first triple kill. I can't bet against Mikado. But, I can't bet against Mikado. I still feel like Polaris will find that one, though. Player with the most D wards by 15. I'm just going to lean towards Hyde. Although I feel like AU probably is actually a bit more disciplined on that. And player with the longest kill streak. Mikado had it last time. So I'm going to say Mikado again. Although the Pango is not as slippery as the Puck. And we have seen Mikado kind of die a little bit more in the Pango. So maybe it doesn't happen. But those are my bets.
Thank you for that, Jonathan. We appreciate that. Well, I couldn't help but notice someone was asking earlier what the players were, shaking in their hands. Those are hand warmers, for anyone not aware. They aren't tea bags, they are hand warmers. So there you go. You need to warm up those hands before you do get into these games. Very, very important for these pro players, as Well, Natsumi already getting very lucky with the route there onto KP, but cannot contest the boundary rune. Will have to back his Spirit Bear out. Meanwhile, bottom side, there was a bit of a fight over that boundary rune as well, but it is going to end up being a 2-for-2 trade, as Force is really going to harass Q out before he does leave the area. Beautiful little uproar there from our Primal Beast. Let's start with that mid lane. Makoto, going to be on that mid Pango. He'll be against
Kind of
Lelouch.
poking. I'm surprised.
I'm going to have to take over here. I believe John is having some issues here, so we are going to move into the mid lane, which is going to be Makoto and Lelouch going at it here on the Pango versus Kunkka. Should be an interesting matchup. Of course, we did mention the Quap might have a bit of an unfavorable matchup against the Kunkka during that draft stage, so they do swap out, put Makoto on the Pango instead. So the Pango offering a lot of team fight as well, and just a lot better in terms of going up against the Kunkka. Just kind of able to abuse the shield crash and the swashbuckle to really be able to lane against Lelouch. Of course, let's have a look at the side lanes as well. Perhaps bottom lane, you're going to have Force there on the Primal Beast, along with his Doom Xavius, playing the position 4. Q going to be on the position 4 Queen of Pain, and 23 Savage is going to be playing that Pos 1 Void. It does seem like a rather strong lane for either side. I'd say it does look stronger for Talon on this end of things, though, as well. Xavius on the Pos 4 Doom. You kind of question how much he can get done unless he finds the right creep. But now he does actually pick up that healing creep, so that creep is always interesting because you have 100 heal on a 10-second cooldown for 60 mana. And in fact, it's more like 115 heal because of the heal amplification. So it can kind of save the day for Force, and you are seeing it in action. Just use it off cooldown every single time Force needs it. Keep him healthy. And maybe Q just won't have the impact he's looking for on the support Quap. Because you just have constant heals flying in from Xavius. It kind of works as Force. He'll pop the uproar. Bit of harassment on Savage, but the Time Walk is going to take all that damage away. We'll have a look at that final lane as well. You're going to have the top lane. Hyde on the Dazzle. Going to be there with KP on the position 3 Marcy. Will be against Natsumi on the Pos 1 Lone Druid. And AU, of course, on the position 5 Lich. The Lich Lone Druid lane, usually pretty darn powerful, especially because you can abuse the Frost Shield with the Bear. As well as that, of course, Frost Blast also very, very strong. And you do see AU with some mangoes. Hello, Jonathan. Nice to see you back, sir. Just took a short break, did you?
Yeah, classic Southeast Asian stuff for me this time around. Good to hear at least you were unaffected. How's the game been going? I missed out a lot. 3 minutes is a long time to miss out here.
I mean, not much has happened, John. First blood hasn't been drawn. I was just discussing the top lane. If you'd like to have you put your 2 cents in here, John, I was just kind of explaining that Natsumi and AU might have a very good time at this top lane with the Lich and Lone Druid, but I suppose it goes the other way as well. Like with the Dazzle Marcy, you do have to be very careful.
And they're doing a great job on Talon to actually cut off that early CS of Natsumi. Off to a bit of a slower start. There are some good combos on hand. Just Poison Touch plus Sidekick and Rebound, of course, is really good. And you can't actually underestimate literally anyone with Sidekick, especially at level 2, level 3. The bonus damage on high chasing down with Poison Touch can whittle you down very quickly. So that is leading to that caution here. Like I think I heard you mention like a Frost Shield combination with Natsumi on the Bear. That can happen, but it puts your Bear at risk. And early levels of the Bear are pretty